being indoctrinated in the same hatred of themselves and their religion. I'm angered that you won't do anything to stop it. And so I want to do something for you, because maybe you think I'm making this up, that there was a no whites allowed conference because of a skin color. And it was a group of organizers of the annual White Privilege Conference that took place in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm going to play for you a piece of this tape that you're not going to believe. It's compelling radio. Neil, let's hear the first part of it.
The White Privilege Conference, or WPC, is an annual gathering of thousands of private and public educators, students, and school administrators from across the country. Participants examine and confront what they see as systemic race-based privilege in America. In our previous reports, we've taken you behind the scenes at the White Privilege Conference.
But the institutionalized racism that is in America can't be denied. It can't be, I mean, you can't really argue against it. It is what it is, and this country was built on white principles for white people.
We, the people. So if we go back to the Constitution, we the people, who was it? White men, land-owning, wealthy, Christian. They claimed to be straight at the time, who knows?
In our nation, racism, white people do not experience racism. White people can experience discrimination, but not racism.
The longer you are in the Tea Party, the more racist you become.
We've also shown you how the conference trains teachers to induct children as young as 4 years old into the school of white privilege ideology.
Racism is central to America. We want the children to understand that racism is systematic and institutionalized.
White privilege is something that white people have, meaning they have an advantage to a lot of things.
In our final report, we ask the question, can the attendees of the White Privilege Conference abide by the principles established by the white privilege theory? A recurring theme at the White Privilege Conference is the negative effects of European Christian culture. Christianity is presented not as a system of spiritual faith, but as an institutionalized system of social oppression like racism or sexism.
So, what do I mean by Christian hegemony? Very simply, I define it as the everyday, pervasive, deep-seated, and institutionalized dominance of Christian values, Christian institutions, leaders, and Christians as a group, primarily for the benefit of Christian ruling elites. So that's very similar to how we might define racism or sexism or other systems of oppression.
But do conference attendees consider other world religions through the same critical lens? During his workshop, White American Islamophobia, Amir Ahmed explains how Islam was spread through Africa by economic coercion.
What happened in West Africa is the kings, you have to be Muslim to have access to the Islamic trade routes. So the West African kings converted to Islam in order to be able to have access to these trade routes. So it wasn't through some kind of foreign colonization. It was through indigenous conversion for various reasons, politically, economically, socially, or just belief.
Here, Ahmed casually dismisses concerns about the Muslim Brotherhood, characterizing it as a simple political party.
Then, of course, there was the Huma Abedin saga, who was an aide to Hillary Clinton, which Michelle Bachmann said that the administration has ties to Muslim Brotherhood.
Turn the foaming moron racist off. I think you've gotten a flavor for what they're doing behind closed doors to marginalize and hate white people and Christians. Now, you may say, what can I do about it? You can do plenty about it. First of all, if they subject your daughter or your son to this in school, I want you to go in there, and I want you to be angry, and I want you to get in the face of the administrator. I want you to get right in front of her face, and I want you to yell at her, and I want you to scream at her, and I want you to tell her to never, ever subject your children to this kind of hatred for white people and to Christians. And you'll have her arrested for brainwashing your daughter or your son. You can do that. You can join the savage army. There are more of us than there are them. You want to make it clear? You want to wind up a slave in your own nation? You want to wind up worse than a slave in your own nation? Let these vermin keep this up. let these white privileged communist vermin keep this up, because the organizers don't happen to be black. The organizers are hardcore left-wing fanatic whites.